What's up, basketball junkies? We're back with another banger of an episode, and today we're taking a deep dive into a player who was once the talk of the town, Brandon Ingram.
In the making, Brandon Ingram. Brandon with 2 on the clock for the win.
From being the second overall pick in the draft to navigating the treacherous waters of today's NBA, this guy's story is anything but boring. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. When the New Orleans Pelicans pulled off the move to get DeJounte Murray from the Atlanta Hawks, the NBA world was buzzing, especially when Brandon Ingram's name wasn't part of the deal. The Hawks were reportedly eyeing a dynamic duo of Ingram and Trae Young, but the Pelicans had other ideas and chose to hold on to Ingram. But here's the kicker. Ingram's trade value has taken a noticeable dip lately, and it's putting the Pelicans in a tough spot. The Pelicans are on the fence about giving Ingram a max extension, which could cost them a whopping $45 to $50 million a year. That's a big check to write, especially for a player who's been dealing with injuries and hasn't always been consistent on the floor. With Trey Murphy stepping up and showing real promise, there's chatter that Ingram might end up losing his starting spot. Imagine paying max money for a guy coming off the bench. That's not a good look for any franchise. Ingram has drawn plenty of comparisons to a young Kevin Durant, thanks to his tall, lanky build, smooth shooting stroke, and solid ball handling. Remember, the Lakers drafted him second overall in 2016, choosing him over Jaylen Brown and even passing up on trading for Paul George. The potential was there, but Ingram hasn't quite lived up to those lofty KD comparisons. His efficiency hasn't matched Durant's, and he's struggled to develop that killer chemistry with Zion Williamson. Let's not forget the 2022-23 season, where Ingram led the Pelicans to the playoffs, coming up big in the play-in tournament. But when it came time to face the top-seeded Suns, things fell apart. Ingram was off his game, inefficient, turning the ball over, and the Pelicans ended up getting swept out of the first round. To make matters worse, he went down with a knee injury with 12 games left in the season, and Zion got sidelined with a hamstring issue. The Pelicans are all in on building around Zion and the recently acquired DeJounte Murray, leaving Ingram's future with the team up in the air. They're trying to hammer out a contract extension with, but his steep asking price and recent struggles have made other teams hesitant to pull the trigger on a trade. With the new season on the horizon, the clock is ticking, and Ingram's situation is far from resolved. His stock is slipping, and if things don't turn around soon, the Pelicans might find themselves stuck in a tough spot. Steve Kerr, head coach of the Golden State Warriors, had some pointed observations about Ingram's performance during the 2023 FIBA World Cup, and they weren't exactly glowing. Kerr noted that Ingram struggled to find his rhythm in the FIBA format, a style of play that prioritizes defensive intensity over the offensive fireworks we often see in the NBA. Ingram, who's used to being a go-to scorer, found himself in an unfamiliar position, averaging just 5.7 points per game. For a player of his caliber, this was a significant drop-off from the numbers he typically puts up in the NBA, and it was clear that the adjustment wasn't easy for him. Kerr's comments highlighted a critical issue in Ingram's game: his defensive limitations. In FIBA, the defense is rewarded, and in the NBA, the offense is rewarded, Kerr pointed out, emphasizing how the international game exposed some of Ingram's weaknesses. While Ingram has always been praised for his scoring ability and smooth offensive game, his struggles on the defensive end became more apparent when he couldn't rely on his usual offensive production to make up for it. As he heads into the final year of his contract with the Pelicans, these struggles come at a particularly bad time. He's looking for a max extension, which could range from $45 to $50 million annually. But the Pelicans aren't rushing to open their checkbook. With the rise of Trey Murphy, who's shown he can be a real asset on both ends of the floor, the Pelicans are facing a tough decision. They can either offer Ingram a less lucrative deal, let him walk in free agency next year, or explore trade options before the deadline. Despite being an all-star, Ingram's trade value isn't what it once was, primarily due to his contract demands and the new NBA salary cap rules. The league's new collective bargaining agreement has made teams much more cautious about handing out big money contracts, especially to players who aren't surefire franchise cornerstones. This financial prudence has led to a lack of serious trade interest in Ingram, despite rumors linking him to teams like the Philadelphia 76ers and Sacramento Kings. The impact of the new CBA is profound. Players who, in the past, might have been considered locks for max contracts are now finding that the market has shifted. Teams are wary of overpaying, knowing that a bad contract could hamstring them for years under the new rules. Ingram's situation is a prime example of this new reality. Unless he's willing to accept less than a max deal, he might find himself with fewer suitors than he'd like. And he's not alone. Other players in similar situations, like Julius Randle and Chris Middleton, could also find it challenging to secure the big contracts they once expected. Brandon Ingram's future with the Pelicans is anything but certain. He's undoubtedly talented and has shown flashes of being a top-tier player, but his recent struggles, combined with the changing financial landscape of the NBA, make his situation complicated. The Pelicans front office, led by David Griffin, has a delicate balancing act ahead of them as they try to build a contender around Zion Williamson and now DeJounte Murray. Ingram's ability to adapt to both his role on the team and the demands of the market will be crucial as the new season approaches. Whether he can prove that he's worth a max deal or if he'll have to accept a lesser role and paycheck remains to be seen. What's clear, though, is that the stakes are high, and the decisions made in the coming months will have a lasting impact on both his career and the future of the team. Gone are the days when players like Fred VanVleet, Chandler Parsons, or Al Horford could secure max deals without being undisputed franchise cornerstones. Now, the spotlight is on players who are clearly the number one or two options on their teams. Brandon Ingram is finding himself at the center of this change as he seeks a max contract in the ballpark of $45–50 million per year. Now let's talk about some things that got him in the position he's in today. After getting drafted second overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in 2016, he struggled to make a significant impact amid the bright lights and high expectations in LA. His move to the New Orleans Pelicans in 2019 gave him a fresh start, and he quickly took on a bigger role, even earning an All-Star nod. But despite showing flashes of greatness, his performance in recent postseasons has left many questioning whether he can be a dependable force on a championship-caliber team. In last year's playoffs, he averaged just 14 points per game on a rough 35% shooting. For a player looking to secure a max contract, those numbers are concerning. Teams are hesitant to commit big money to a player whose postseason impact is still a question mark. With the emergence of Trey Murphy and the tantalizing prospect of Cooper Flagg in the 2025 NBA Draft, the Pelicans have a lot to consider when it comes to Ingram's future. This situation is reminiscent of Aaron Gordon's time in Orlando. Gordon was once seen as a potential franchise player, but struggled to meet the lofty expectations placed on him. After being traded to the Denver Nuggets, Gordon embraced a more defined role as a complementary piece, and it paid off with a championship. Ingram might need to consider a similar adjustment, rethinking his role, whether with the Pelicans or elsewhere, to unlock his full potential. By accepting a less prominent role and potentially a reduced contract, he could find himself contributing to a winning team, much like Gordon did in Denver. The NBA's new collective bargaining agreement has teams more cautious than ever about handing out massive contracts. With stricter financial regulations, the margin for error is slim. Players who were once automatic max candidates are now facing a much tougher road to those deals if they don't consistently meet expectations. This case is a prime example of a new reality. He's at a crossroads, needing to prove not just his talent, but his value within the context of a team looking to contend. As he enters this pivotal phase of his career, he has the opportunity to redefine his role and potentially find success in a different capacity. Whether he stays with the Pelicans or finds a new home, the ability to adapt to this evolving landscape will be critical. The upcoming season will be crucial for Brandon Ingram as he looks to cement his place among the league's elite while navigating the shifting financial dynamics of the NBA. We sure hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like and to share the video. See you next time.